Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land, all my chat folks and the lurkers and the folks that'll be viewing her later on. Glad to have you with me today. Man, it is a pretty day here in Indiana. There's a slight breeze and the trees twitching the leaves around a little bit. Feels great out there this morning. I did a show a little bit earlier this morning for you that I put in as a special edition. There's a slight breeze that I don't hear myself twice. Edition on voter fraud this morning, so you can take a look at that. It's only, I think, about 18 minutes long. Take a look at that at your leisure today if you haven't seen it already. Some important information there, something that we definitely have to keep an eye on. Elections are coming up. Bring you today, so I'm going to go ahead and jump on into it here. That we have is off of the NewYorkTimes.com, and it is, of course, about the hurricane. You know, that seems to be first and foremost in the news everywhere you look. Hurricane Matthew, extremely dangerous, moves north coast. Hurricane Matthew turned along central coast of Florida Friday, but avoided making a direct hit. The hurricane had weakened slightly overnight, but was still a powerful Category 3 storm with winds of about 120 miles an hour. The storm was blamed for the deaths of more than 280 people in Haiti. And videos and stuff in this URL. Of course, all these URLs that I talk about will be in the description of the video below, so you can take a look at that at your leisure to look up anything that you need to look up in them. Or bullet point here says at 8 a.m. the western edge of the hurricane center was about 45 southeast of Daytona Beach, Florida, and moving north-northwest at about 13 miles an hour. Gusts of more than 100 miles an hour were reported near Cape Canaveral as approached that area. The area facing the brunt of the storm has gradually shifted north, with Jacksonville already feeling the heavy rains and winds. A storm surge as much as 7 to 11 feet in some spots is a concern on the coast, including downtown Jacksonville along the St. Johns River. More than 500,000 in Florida are without power, Governor Scott said at a news conference Friday morning. Officials urged residents who have not evacuated to remain in shelters and not be deceived by the bands of rain that come and go. The worst is yet to come, the mayor of Daytona Beach said on CNN Friday morning, urging residents to exercise prudence. Richard Knabb, director of National Hurricane Center, said, just because the center is offshore doesn't mean you can't be in the center of the action. President Barack Obama declared a state of emergency in Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, allowing the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to coordinate relief efforts. To cover the storm and its aftermath, the New York Times has deployed journalists in Miami, Orlando, Florida, Port St. Lucie, Florida, Titusville, Florida, Atlanta, and Charleston, South Carolina. Of them on Twitter if you want to go to this article and click on the link to see what they all got to say about this. And there's some maps here with some information if you want to see what's going on with that. Get it to scroll down here for me a little bit. It says banner headlines. Newspapers across Florida capture the approach of the storm. You can view a selection of them at this link if you want to. And people sandbagging their houses and businesses. So trapped by Category 5 hurricane. Lizette Alvarez at times recalled her night in Florida City, Florida in 1992 when Hurricane Andrew destroyed most of the motels she was staying in. More on that by clicking on the link if you want to hear about that. Death toll in Haiti tops 280. The Haitian government on Thursday said people were now dead from the effects of Hurricane Matthew, drastically revising earlier estimates as more of the affected areas are reached by aid personnel, according to local reports. That transportation communication to the areas have been restored, the death toll appears to be rising drastically. According to a news conference held by the Ministry of the Interior on Thursday morning, the deaths come amid a broad tableau of devastation. Houses pummeled into timber, crops destroyed, and large parts of towns and villages under several feet of water. For surviving a hurricane learned the hard way. Get out. Water rises swiftly and it's more powerful than most people could imagine. And put your valuables in the refrigerator. Times editor learned 4 years ago during Hurricane Sandy. And there's more on that if you want to click a link and read more about that. Evacuating a family without being there. Tiffany Madeline Petro was desperate to get into South Carolina where she lives to get out. So it was in trepidation that Ms. Danielyn Petro, I guess it's pronounced Prieto, a registered nurse on Thursday night, boarded a mostly empty plane to Charleston from Washington. She had been in the area for 2 weeks of professional training that she was not allowed to leave early, even as South Carolina began mandatory evacuations along its coastline this week. Or stuck in the Washington area, had no director of children who are 16 and 19 and her in-laws from a Wednesday as they evacuated from their home in Summersville outside Charleston. Themselves and the pets to meet up with grandma and grandpa, and they all caravan to Atlanta. Miss Dodlin, I was such a nervous wreck all day. It's a mother's worst nightmare. As she spoke on the phone, her in-laws were staying with family in Atlanta, and her children and the family's 3 cats were safely ensconced in a hotel room there. She put out the selfie that they had sent to prove it. She planned to meet her husband at the airport and drive straight to Atlanta without even stopping at home because she was concerned that closed roads would make it difficult to get there. If my children are safe, if the house gets destroyed, so be it. I'd rather it not, since we just moved in it a year ago, she said. She added, I really don't expect much to be left of my house when I get back. Says, I'm afraid for my home. People who live near the coast or in mobile homes or who just did not want to test their luck at home lugged suitcases and clutched their favorite pillows as their minds drifted to what they left behind. 78 years old, was one of the 130 people at the elementary school in Brevard County, Florida, that was being used as a shelter on Thursday. My house is blue. Heaven, Mrs. Paul said. This one can blow your house away. Mrs. Paul brought patio cushions to sleep on, an extra set of clothes, and a windbreaker. She has done this 3 times before during and Jean in I'm afraid for my home, she said. The worst part is not knowing what's going on there while you're away. You just don't know what you're going to find when you get home. Campaigns are affected. The effect of the storm being felt on the presidential campaign, too. A joint appearance by Hillary Clinton and President Obama planned for Wednesday in Miami Gardens, Florida, was postponed. The Trump campaign was also affected. The Miami Herald reported that Ivanka Trump scrapped a fundraiser Wednesday night at Trump National Doral Golf Resort. The hurricane could steal attention away from the campaign if it causes extensive damage. The Clinton campaign was preparing for that possibility, investing in advertising on the Weather Channel in markets across Florida, according to Politico. Reporter is taking hurricane questions. John Swartz, a New York Times reporter who covers climate change and the environment, is answering reader questions about the storm. He wrote out Carla in his hometown of Galveston, Texas, at age 4. He has covered the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina as well as other storms for the Times, where you can click to ask questions about the hurricane. It says, what is the relationship between Hurricane Matthew and climate change? That again, what's the relationship between Hurricane Matthew and climate change? Is it for the news media to depict and discuss this? Young asked. Cynthia, this is one of the greatest questions of our age, not just establishing the role of climate change on extreme weather events, but also stating clearly that we know and do not know. Short answer is it's difficult to attribute a particular storm to climate change, especially in the middle of the action. We're working at quick attribution, and that science is developing. After interviewing Gabriel A. Vichy, a climate researcher, I put it in an article a few weeks ago. The issue might appear to be simple. Provide more energy for storms, so storms should get more numerous and mighty. But other factors have complicated the picture, he said. Changes that can affect wind shear, a factor that keeps cyclones from forming. Emmanuel, a climate scientist at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, said the evidence suggested climate change would cause the strongest storms to grow even stronger or frequent. Unresolved questions surround the effect of warming on the weaker storms, but even those will dump more rain, leading over time to increasing damage from flooding. A link you can click to read more about that if you want to. It says how the Times prepares for a storm coming. Two veteran journalists discuss the challenging inherent in covering hurricanes. And there's a link you can click that. So that's what I have on the hurricane. I tell you what, some of these people are not taking this serious at all. I was watching a video earlier this morning of the newscaster down there trying to report on this thing, and he's about to be blown right off the map, and people are out stroller. I got to wonder, do they not have any sense at all, or, what exactly is wrong with them? And then, let's see. Doesn't seem to want to come up here. Let me try this again. Let's see if we can get her to work for us. I don't know what's up with that. This is off of hostedap.org. It says, Russia strongly warns us against striking the Syrian army. Moscow, AP. The Russian military on Thursday strongly warned, now it's jumping, stop that. Okay, the Russian military on Thursday strongly warned the United States against striking the Syrian army, noting that its air defense weapons in Syria stand ready to fend off any attack. The statement underlined high tensions between Moscow and Washington after the Syrian army's offensive on Aleppo backed by Russian warplanes. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Major General Igor said any U.S. strikes on areas controlled by Syrian President Bashar Assad government would jeopardize the lives of Russians. He said Moscow was worried by media reports alleging that Washington was pondering the possibility of striking Syrian army positions. I would recommend colleagues in Washington to carefully weigh possible consequences of the fulfillment of such plans, said. And Washington State Department spokesman John Kirby said, we're looking at the full range of options here, and those comments notwithstanding, we still have responsibility as government to consider all of those options. I don't find them, this warning, helpful to moving forward to reach some sort of diplomatic solution here, but the Russians should speak for themselves, that kind of thing, he said. Russia responded with dismay to the U.S.-led coalition's air raid on Syrian army positions near Deir el-Zor that killed 60 Syrian soldiers on September 17th, rejecting the U.S. explanation that the attack was a mistake. Bob said, we have taken all necessary measures to prevent any such mistakes with regard to Russian servicemen and military facilities in Syria. Russia's S-300 and air defense missiles systems deployed to Syria would be a surprise to any country operating its aircraft over the country. Added that the Syrian army also has various Soviet and Russian-built air defense missile systems gone modernization over the past year. Since Russia has launched its since Russia has launched its air campaign in Syria in support of Assad's forces a year ago, and the U.S. militaries have acts to prevent any mid-air incidents between Russian warplanes and the aircraft from the U.S.-led coalition in the skies over Syria. Warned, however, that the Russian military won't have time to use the hotline if it sees missiles targets in Syria. That Russian air defense missile crews will unlikely have time to the hotline, the exact flight program, or the ownership of their carriers, he's added. In apparent hint that the U.S. stealth aircraft, he added, Delante, dilettante illusions about stealth planes could collide with disabilities. The Russian military announced Tuesday that a battery of the S-300 air defense missile systems had been sent to Syria to protect a Russian facility in the Syrian port of Russian Navy ships coast. Tartus is the only naval supply facility Russia has outside the former Soviet Union. It has added more punch to the Russian military force in Syria, which already includes long-range S-400 missile defense system and the array of other surface-to-air missiles at the Hmeimim Air Base in Syria coastal province of. Russia has conducted an air campaign since September 30th of 2015, saving an army defeat and helping win key ground. Is that information about Russia and Syria and the U.S.? There's off of the gatewaypundit.com, and it says Hungarian intelligence expert, Muslim army to expand no-go zones, fight for pronouncing that right, and I know that there's some of you out there that pulling your hair out when I pronounce some of this stuff. I'm not from there, okay? Laszlo Faldi, a security and national intelligence expert and former director of operation in Hungarian intelligence, spoke with Hungarian TV recently about the Muslim threat in Europe. Thousands of Muslim soldiers have already arrived in Europe. Totalitarianism, it is classic meaning we are talking about here, but an attack, an invasion that has two purposes. In the first place, possible well-trained soldiers into Europe, and their primary task is to enlist the local Muslim population, those third-generation Muslims who live in the non-existent no-go zones and do not want to integrate into the host. Culture. They are members of potential. Another type of strategy exists, the conquest of Europe in another way. Occasion, as Europe invites future potential. So there is that article on what's going on there in Hungary. We have here is off of barenakedislam.com. And I'm waiting. Here we go. It says Italian Coast Guard rescues more than 11,000 illegal alien Muslim invaders in just 2 days this week. Shouldn't the Italian Coast Guard be turning around these human trafficking boats as Australia did, and eventually America? Thousands more, mainly African Muslim freeloaders, rapists, and potential jihadists pretending to be refugees will be coming to your cities and towns soon, depleting your welfare coffers, raping your young daughters, and creating soaring crime rates, all because George Soros is funding it and your elected leaders are benefiting from it. It says more than 5,000 migrants were saved on Tuesday and Wednesday off the Libyan coast, and 28 bodies recovered, bringing the total number of people rescued this week to more than 11,000, Italy's Coast Guard said. Sadly, only about 20 people were reported to have suffocated in the hold of one overloaded fishing boat, bringing the total death toll for Monday and Tuesday to 50. Italian officials said 3 Muslim breeders saved on Monday had given birth over the past 24 hours on Coast Guard vessel that was bringing some refugees to Sicily. The latest surge in the new arrivals means that 142,000 Muslim invaders have reached Italy since the start of the year, and only 3,100 have died making perilous trip. The estimated 154,000 came to Italy in 2015, and only 2,892 died. Of Muslim freeloaders comes from Africa, including Nigeria, Eritrea, Guinea, Gambia, Sudan, Ivory Coast, and Somalia. And there's videos in this if you want to see the videos and that. The next one we have is off of DennisMichaelLynch.com. It says, chilling timeline, Obama's dismantling of U.S. immigration laws. For American Immigration Reform, called FAIR, has recently released a video they call a summary of the Obama immigration policy timeline wrecking ball, which outlines steps Obama has taken from the beginning of his presidency to dismantle enforcement of U.S. immigration laws. The video also shows how Hillary Clinton assisted in his actions. A must-see by every American. It explains what Obama meant when he promised to fundamentally transform America. So is in this article. So if you pull up the URL to it, I don't play them because of all the ads and stuff that they want to throw in on this stuff. It says one of the reasons why President Obama is so concerned about Donald Trump winning the White House in 2016 is because Trump has built his campaign around the promise of stopping illegal immigration and building a wall on the Mexican border. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton has embraced promising to enact amnesty within her first 100 days in office, and said she will fight for immigration reform that provides a full and equal path to citizenship. To multiple and increasing Islamic terrorist attacks, both the U.S. and abroad, Donald Trump has proposed a pause in Muslim immigration until the U.S. can implement a better vetting program, while Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration have embraced Muslim immigrants and called Trump supporters deplorable and racist for their opinion, opposition, and concerns to the use. He repeatedly expressed concerns about American jobs going to foreign immigrants and has pledged to put American citizens first under his presidency. Hillary Clinton has promised to grow even further than Obama has in immigration reform. Have that information. The next one that we have here is off of MSN.com. Does Trump still support a Muslim ban? He won't say, but Pence says, of course not. Says Indiana Governor Mike Pence, Republican, has been repeatedly asked to clarify something that his running mate simply will not. Donald Trump still Muslims from entering the United States? Of course not, Pence said on MSNBC Monday Morning Joe on Thursday. Then clarified that the campaign instead wants to suspend immigration from areas of the world, territories, and specifically countries that have been so compromised by terrorism that we can't know for certain who these people are. Pence is one of the numerous Trump surrogates to repeatedly say that the Republican presidential nominee does not want a religion-based ban and will instead focus on countries with high rates of terrorism against the United States, most of which happen to have high Muslim populations. On CNN on Thursday, Pence said that a Muslim ban is not Donald Trump's position now, but there's one key person who has yet to say Trump no longer wants a Muslim ban: Donald Trump. Trump has said that he purposely stopped using the word Muslim in describing the ban, and he has said that all of his proposals are simply suggestions open to negotiation, but he has yet to formally abandon the controversial position that he first took in early December. And his campaign website still contains a statement on preventing Muslim immigration that says Donald J. Trump is calling for total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on. The topic did not directly come up during the first presidential debate last week. So there you have that information. The next one's FoxNews.com. White House coordinated with State Department Clinton campaign on email issue, documents show. And it's going to try to play something here, and I'm going to have to try to stop it. Lord have mercy. I wish they'd stop with these things just automatically happening here. Okay. I think I may have put the kibosh on it. Let's see. Newly disclosed emails show top Obama administration officials were in close contact with Hillary Clinton's campaign in early 2015 about potential fallout from revelations that the former Secretary of State used a private email server. Their discussion included a request from the White House communications director to her counterpart at the State Department to see if it was possible to arrange for Secretary of State John Kerry to avoid appearances about Mrs. Clinton's email arrangement. And another instance, a top State Department official assured an attorney for Mrs. Clinton that, contrary to media reports, a department official hadn't told Congress that Mrs. Clinton erred in using a private email account. The previously unreported emails were obtained by the Republican National Committee as part of a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit seeking records of Mrs. Clinton's time in office. The RNC provided to the Wall Street Journal only some of the emails, leaving it unclear what was in the remaining documents. The RNC said it emails relevant to the communication between the White House and the State Department. He, Chief of Policy Programs and Strategy at the nonpartisan advocacy group Issue One, and an expert on ethics and campaign finance, said the email exchange would probably raise no legal concerns because federal law permits members of the White House staff to engage in some political activity. Email arrangements has dogged her campaign for months, with Republicans and other critics saying it shows a carelessness with government secrets and undermines her claim to good judgment. He posted a statement on his website last month saying the Obama White House was using a private email server. Mrs. Clinton has acknowledged the arrangement was a mistake, but she rejected the notion that the national secrets were placed at risk. Her campaign didn't respond to a request for comment about new email disclosures. The emails highlight the revolving door between the State Department, the White House, and the Clinton campaign in early 2015 as Mrs. Clinton geared up to run for president. About this, you can click on a link. It'll take you to the, that. The next one that we have here is off of BizPack Review. It says, leaked email reveals Hillary faked surprise during TV interview. Whole thing scripted by campaign. Is a legendary, Hillary legendary for the control she exerts over media opportunities, and nowhere was that more apparent than in the recent appearance on the Steve Harvey Show. The Democratic nominee campaign took advantage of perennial nice guy Steve Harvey to the extent of helping write the show's script, according to the Washington Free Beacon. Campaign email sent to Clinton on February 17, 2016 by aides found attached to the email post on the website dcleaks.com exposed the campaign's heavy hand. Steve Harvey is known to be a host who goes out of his way to make guests feel comfortable, wrote campaign spokeswoman Karen Finney, and communications Tasia Alcantara. We coordinated closely with the show's producers on the script and format of the show. The communique was sent 1 week before Clinton's appearance. And this is off of the Free Beacon. It says campaign memo reveals that Clinton's staff worked with Harvey to craft the structure of the interview. Presidential nominee ahead of time, precise wording of Harvey's questions. The questions touched on Clinton's granddaughter, her preference for deep dish or thin crust pizza, her campaign's great start, efforts to bridge America's racial divide, and her support for gun control policies. According to the memo, Clinton's staff saw Harvey's show as an effective and low-risk way to reach out to female African-American voters. They also noted recent episodes of the show that Clinton had stressed during her campaign. In a show of just how duplicitous Clinton can be, throughout the interview, despite knowing ahead of time what was coming. The campaign and the show's producers also agreed ahead of time on the structure of a segment that would explore Clinton's biography and achievements. During this segment, Steve will take a trip down memory lane with you to talk about the different moments of your life displayed in the photographs below. The memo explained photos of Clinton that Harvey pulled up on the screen as she discussed her childhood, education, relationship with her husband, and election to the U.S. Senate. Yet, as seen in the clip below, fraudulent Clinton expressed surprise when Harvey displayed a photo of her at 12 years old. Oh boy, the candidate said, oh my goodness. The picture in that of her surprise about Bill and Monica. I'm just guessing. The video's in that if you want to take a look at it. The next one we have is off bizpackreview.com. It says more scripted nonsense. Something super suspicious about teen feeding Hillary loaded town hall softball. It says Hillary Clinton avoids uncomfortable questions like she avoids crucifixes and holy water, and has been known to go holding official press conferences. So why should we expect her town halls to be anything less than completely manufactured, staged events? The answer is we shouldn't. And this was further confirmed at a Harvard, Pennsylvania town hall on Tuesday when 15-year-old girl, supposedly chosen at random, delivered a scripted performance worthy of an Academy Award. The performance so magnificent that it raised the suspicions of YouTuber named Spanglevision, who then decided to do some digging. Turns out this random question poser was none other than a child actor who happens to be the daughter of Pennsylvania State Senator Davin Leach, Democrat, who is, surprise, surprise, a Hillary supporter. Brennan's original question was, hi, Madam Secretary, I'm Brennan, and I'm 15 years old. At my school, body image is a really big issue for girls my age. I see with my own eyes the damage Donald Trump does when he talks about women and how they look. As the first female president, how would you undo some of that damage and help girls understand that they're so much more than just what they look like? Hillary, of course, didn't miss this softball. It's almost as if she knew the question was coming. Proud of you for asking that question. You're right. My opponent has just taken this concern to a new level of difficulty and meanness. And it's shocking when women are called names and judged solely on the basis of physical attributes. My opponent insulted Miss Universe. I mean, how do you get more acclaim than that? But it wasn't good enough, so we can't take any of this seriously anymore. We need to laugh at it. We need to refute it. We need to ignore it, and we need to stand up to it. And there's a video of this if you want to watch it. Things just laughable. The next one's off of Rick Wells' US, constitutionrising.com. Says, Tommy Lauren, enough dead voters, multiple registrations to throw the election. Poured in my other one. I saved this one for the noon news. So if you want to see all the voter fraud and stuff that's going on, you'll have to see the other video, but I'll read this one to you. Tommy Lauren reminds Americans that it's very important that they vote. She reiterates that she's addressing Americans and explains that she isn't speaking to either dead people or invaders who barged into this country illegally. She notes that while they are accustomed to having their votes at Obama and Hillary Clinton, that special treatment doesn't include the right to vote. She points out that they are the party of criminals, after all, includes 2.8 million who are registered to vote in 2 or more states, and 1.8 million who, although they are registered to vote, are actually deceased. Lauren points out that in 2008, over 6% of the non-citizens were able to vote, a number which was a difference in getting their current fellow illegal squatter elected. She advocates for voter ID laws, although there is obviously not enough time at this late stage in the game for us to do much beyond some intensive poll watching and the associated challenges. Secretary and illegal alien enabler Jihadi J. Johnson has been promoting the idea that the election will be hacked, so there's little doubt that Democrats have something in the works, some illegal try that again, illegality to put the criminal likely an assortment of attacks across not only polling sites but elsewhere. She reminds us arguments of the left against protecting the integrity of the electoral process. She claims that voter ID laws disenfranchise voters and hamper the minority vote. She asked the question many of us trying to get answers to because there simply is none, saying, I still don't get how showing driver's license or ID card or to vote is in any way racist or exclusionary. Mrs. Lawrence says, if you need an ID to buy a Sudafed, get into a bar, cash a check, or board an airplane, you sure as hell need one to vote for our next president. And if the Dems don't like that, well, that tells you everything you need to know about the party. The IDs are also free for those who can't afford one, asking since when have Democrat voters ever had a hard time accepting a free thing? This war against voter ID law is nothing more than a continuation of the left's favorite narrative. Everyone's a victim and law and order is oppressive. Give me a break. And her video is there in that URL if you want to see that. The next one we have is off of BizPack Review. It says, taxpayers give Harry Reid a check for saying Trump lives in a penthouse paid for by daddy. Harry Reid set off taxpayers when he blasted Donald Trump for living in a penthouse his daddy bought him. Reid's statement was sparked by Trump's telling a Nevada audience how to pronounce his name, the name of his home state. Trump playfully brought up the subject while addressing the crowd supporters of a campaign rally in Reno. And there's a bunch of tweets here. Jim Dalrymple II says, here's Trump mispronouncing Nevada while insisting on pronouncing it correctly. And Senator Harry Reid says, if Trump wants to come down from his penthouse his daddy bought him to lecture us on Nevada, he could at least pronounce it correctly. Says taxpayers who've been paying attention did not hesitate to weigh in. Says if Trump wants to come down from his penthouse his daddy brought him to lecture us on Nevada, he could at least pronounce it correctly. And Grace Under Pressure says, says the man who's been sucking off the taxpayers for decades. Matt Taylor says, I'm sure you're broke, Harry. Or are you like most career bureaucrats worth millions of bucks, fat off decades of public cash? John Gale says, what the hell do you know about Nevada? You've been getting rich living in Washington for the past 40 years. Fat Deplorable says, a rich politician is a crook. How'd you get so rich, Harry? Iberia says, didn't the mob beat you, your old ass? Dave Garner says, if Donald Trump wants to come down from anywhere and beat your tired old ass, it's okay with America. First Noel says the parasite who got his ass kicked by exercise equipment. Heidi says, but hurt and jealous. Not a good look, but a typical Democrat response. Did you make millions off our backs? And DJ Cataract says, where's the bum cream? So sounds like April taking shots at old Harry. The next one we have here is thehill.com. Waiting for it to pop up on my screen. There we go. Obama commutes sentences of 102 inmates. Just, open it up to the immigrants. He's opening it up to President Obama on Thursday commuted the sentences of 102 inmates, the White House announced. Obama has commuted the sentence of 744 individuals, more than the past 11 presidents combined, according to the White House Thursday announcement, brings the total number granted this year alone to 590. Full year in U.S. history. Make clear that the president and his administration have succeeded in efforts to reinvigorate the clemency process, White House counsel wrote in a blog post. Beyond the statistics, though, are stories of individuals who have overcome the longest earn this second chance. The latest round of communications is part of the Obama administration's effort to free prisoners serving lengthy sentences doled out during the government's war on drugs. With just 3 months left in office, Obama is accelerating the use of his clemency power. Obama in August handed out to 325 inmates, including 214 on August the 3rd, the largest single day total since 1900. The number of computations granted during the Obama presidency. Obama's first clemency initiative in 2014 to review sentences of nonviolent drug offenders who would receive shorter prison terms under today's guidelines. It's part of a broader push to reform the criminal justice system. From reform advocates to pick the pace of computations, the administration has tweaked its strategy to accommodate more inmates. He has shortened some inmate sentences without immediately releasing them, leaving them years left to serve. That has allowed Obama to grant prisoners who have committed more serious offenses. For example, 28 of the 35 inmates serving life in prison had their sentences reduced in 30 years. Will be released in the next 2 years. A large number of inmates convicted of gun charges have received clemency from Obama, according to the USA Today review. 30 inmates have firearm-related convictions. The computations are increasingly seen as last-ditch efforts for Obama to reduce prison sentences he sees as unjust. But the slim that Congress will pass a broader criminal justice reform bill before the president leaves office. Eggleston urged Congress to pass sentencing reform bill in the lame duck session after the November elections. It can be a powerful tool to rectify specific cases, but the individualized nature of highlights the need for bipartisan criminal justice reform legislation, he wrote. Only the passage of legislation can achieve the broader reforms needed to ensure our federal sentencing system operates more fairly and effectively in the service of public safety. It's off of foxnews.com. There it goes. Authorities caught barely half of illegal border crossers last year, reports find. This is out of San Diego. It says immigration authorities caught just over half of the people who illegally entered the U.S. from Mexico last year, according to a report commissioned by the Department of Homeland Security that offers one of the most detailed assessments of border security ever compiled. The report found that 54% of people who entered illegally crossings got caught in the 2015 fiscal year. That's much lower than the 81% success rate that Homeland Security cited publicly, a different counting method. The 98-page report was compiled in May, and Homeland Security officials have declined to release it despite urging from some members of Congress. The Associated Press obtained a copy from a government official involved in a border issue who acted of anonymity because the department has not made the report public. The department said Thursday that the report was one building block provided by a research organization toward developing more reliable measures of border security, and that its methodology, DHS does not believe it is in the public interest to release and would be irresponsible to make policy or other judgments on the basis of analysis that is incomplete and remains a work in progress, spokeswoman Marcia Catron said. The report offers some of most detailed measures yet of how secure the border with Mexico is, a major issue in a presidential campaign that features Republican nominee Donald Trump calling for a wall along the entire 4-mile border. The report includes enough material to argue that the government has made big strides or that it is falling woefully short. In terms of people, 170,000 eluded capture during the 2015 fiscal year, 210,000 the previous year, and 1.7 million in 2005. The number of people who eluded capture is larger when including those who escaped detention at border crossings or who entered by sea, which is the responsibility of Homeland Security agencies outside Border Patrol. Adding those 200,000 people got away last year, 260,000 in 2014, and 1.9 million in 2015. Or I'm sorry, in 2005. Illegal entries over the last decade coincides with major increases in border security spending, which has reached $14 billion annually. The report notes more serious consequences imposed on illegal crossers during that period, which include jail time. Have also cited the significant decline in job opportunities after the Great Recession that began at the end of 2007. Still, sharp declines in illegal entries have continued in recent years as the economy improved. This is the evidence we have that the border buildup of the last 20 years has indeed made some significant difference in deterring and reducing illegal entries across the southern border, said Edward Alden, a senior fellow at the Council of Foreign Relations. The Border Patrol's capture rate on the Mexican border was about 55% in 2014 and 36% in 2005. According to the report prepared for Homeland Security by the Institute for Defense Analysis, a federally funded research organization, achieved an 11-point improvement in 2014 after years of slow but steady gains. The report does not offer an explanation for the sudden improvement. The report, which includes an appendix, pages on methodology and review of previous efforts to count border crossers, offers detailed analysis going back to 2000, shortly before the U.S. erected hundreds of miles of fences along the Mexican border, added surveillance gear, and doubled the number of Border Patrol agents. Homeland Security has been under pressure to show if those multi-billion-dollar investments yielded results. The primary measure that Homeland Security has released for public consumption is the number of Border Patrol arrests, which tells how many people got caught, but not how many people got away, to the lowest level in 44 years in 2015, down 80% of nearly 1.7 million in 2000. Years, the department has released an interdiction effectiveness rate, percentage of people who got caught among all who attempted to enter between crossings on the Mexican border. The figure includes those who set foot in the United States and turned around seekers. It was 81% in the fiscal year that ended September 30th of 2015. The report obtained by the AP takes a different approach. It does not credit the government for people who turn around or turn themselves in to agents to seek asylum. Among Central American women and children who have entered the country in large numbers over the past 5 years, many of them fleeing drug-fueled violence. The report says there were 140,000 asylum seekers on the Mexican border last year and 170,000 in 2014, compared to about 20,000 a decade ago. Homeland Security's practice of counting those as captures, or explaining why its success rate was so much higher. The report also counts people who entered the country illegally at border crossings, typically by presenting fake or stolen documents to immigration inspectors. It does not publish those numbers. 28,000 escaped detection last year, down from 46,000 in 2014. Rate improved to 39% from 29%. Counting border crossers who elude capture is a mammoth and ambitious task, but one that many experts believe is necessary to judge whether the border is secure. Homeland Security approaches the job by tracking physical evidence, such as footprints in the desert and other signs of human presence, and by agent sightings. The internal report uses that information along with migrant surveys and techniques developed by social scientists. With all that being said, when Obama says, well, we're not going to send them back even when we catch them, what good does this do, really? Our politicians have to have a little bit of teeth and do something about it when we do catch them. Here's off FoxNews.com. White House reportedly puts thousands of deportation cases on hold. See, there you go. The Obama administration has delayed deportation proceedings against more than 56,000 Central American immigrants who have entered the U.S. illegally since 2014, the New York Times reported on Thursday. The federal officials told the Times that some deportation cases have been pushed as far back as 2023. Creating what one retired immigration judge called docket chaos. Cases have been delayed, failed to report to government offices to be fitted with GPS ankle bracelets, the Times reports. Now federal officials admit that many immigrants may never report for their court dates. In June 2014, the White House said it would work to process and deport illegal immigrants quicker after a surge of families and unaccompanied minors crossed the southern border of U.S. months. The Times reported Thursday that deportation proceedings for unaccompanied minors are still being expedited. The White House had no immediate comment on the report Thursday night. If you want to read more on it, there's a link you can click. The New York Times article. Man. This one is off the Common Sense Show. National troops preparing for guerrilla war in Colorado. Place for special importance to the New World Order. That when Washington, D.C. is destroyed, that Colorado will be the next capital. The CIA, the DHS have moved a good portion of the operation to underground facilities near Denver International Airport. Predicted programming from the media has pointed to this fact. In the movie Hunger Games, Colorado was the location for Capital City. In the mythical country of Panem, that looked eerily like Nixon's breakup of the United States into 10 UN districts in a recent TV series, Designated Survivor, the entire federal government was destroyed except for a few survivors. In 2011, Denver played host to Operation Mountain Guardian, which was essentially a FEMA DHS incarceration drill using the football home of Denver Broncos NFL Stadium as the base of operations. Further, DIA was shut down, yet the elite flew their jets to DIA during the drill and presumably disappeared underground. In many people's minds, this anointed Denver as the future headquarters of the U.S. government. Colorado has become an Agenda 21 cesspool. Led by the Koch brothers, Colorado is on the verge of experiencing draconian increases in utility rates because the energy providers in the mile-high state are being conjoined with, which will lessen any competition. In Colorado, if one publicly opposes Agenda 21, their children are stolen without any provocation. Is Stacy Lynn, it says. In Colorado, farmers can legally only use 50% of their land. Water cannot be trapped or reused in any form, even to irrigate farmland. The Agenda 21 corruption in Colorado rivals anything found in the Obama administration, and the schools have become liberalism, where glorifying Islam is encouraged, but expressions of Christianity are forbidden. Sierra and Rocky Mountain high schools. Colorado is lost, and the people are anesthetized and mesmerized. The Denver Broncos football team. However, this is only the beginning of the nightmare that is in store for Colorado. Eventually, people are going to rise up against these draconian NWO policies that have overtaken my former home state. There are already signs of opposing the Agenda 21 takeover in large numbers. Further, Colorado is home of several key military bases, including Fort Carson. What military will not totally side with the administration on the continuing subjugation of the state and the country as a whole? What if the military does what oath keepers demand, that the soldiers honor their constitutional oath? The globalists had prepared for this eventuality as well. If portions of the military defect and defend the people, the war would likely be guerrilla. Well, the NWO is prepared for that eventuality. Multinational troops preparing for guerrilla war in Colorado. I interviewed Paul Martin, who lives and works in North Colorado. With their troops in Colorado than one can count. They seemingly share one thing. They're in Colorado to prepare for guerrilla war that is coming between the disaffected parts of the American military and the multinational forces of the UN. Eyewitness accounts of what is happening is not to be taken lightly, as these sightings are happening all over the country. Are in a video here if you want to take a look at that at your leisure. So that kind of fills in any blanks that you might have on what's coming, doesn't it? Feel good. I like this one. This is off of Mike Rowe's Facebook post this morning. He says, well, actually it was yesterday morning, but it says, Sprouse like house. It says, Sam's been my security detail for the last Nashville. He's about 6'8", maybe 300 pounds. Doesn't appear to be any fat on him. Sam moves well for a big man. That's along with an economy of effort, and he has a way of making you forget he's even there. For a guy who can block out the sun. Sam is always watching, always listening, always anticipating what's next. He didn't say much when we met. In fact, he didn't say much when we said goodbye either. More stories out of him because he clearly has a few, but it soon became clear Sam didn't discuss the details of his work or the identities of many celebrities and politicians who request him specifically. But a few seconds before I walked on stage, Sam glided over and said, Mr. Rowe, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I feel the need to share something with you. Sure, Sam, what is it? Sam looked over his shoulder and then leaned down and said, I just want you to know that I really love my job. I looked up at the big man and smiled. I can tell, I said. You're good at it. Yes, he said, I am. But I'm not good at it because I love it. I love it because I'm good at it. The man was introducing me to the crowd, chronicling a few more moments from my dubious resume. Sam chuckled as the man described my postgraduate work in the sewers of San Francisco. I've done lots of things, Sam said, but I don't know how much I loved protecting people until I learned how to do it. In other words, I didn't follow my passion. I just wanted you to know that. As Sam faded back into the shadows, the announcer called my name. Steely Dan played Dirty Work, and I walked on stage deeply flattered by a man who loves his job. That was great because so many people go through life hating what they do. They absolutely hate their job. They deplore their job. They can't stand their boss. Life's too short for that. As I was growing up, something that I've always held on to, and he says, if you love what you do, work a day in your life. And that's the way people should go through life. They should love what they do. They should get up of a morning with enthusiasm, excited about the day to come. And if that's not happening for you, you need to change something in your life. There's no reason to go through this life hating what you do. We all have days, no matter what kind of job we have, that, oh my goodness gracious, what happened today? But if you dislike your job so bad that every morning you're getting up hating it, that you just want to pull the covers up over your head and hide, you need to find a new job or a new line of work. Man. But I thought that was precious. That man is so excited about his job that he loves what he does. I thought that was an important message to bring across to people. If you have an issue in your life, or you know somebody that has an issue in their life, you can help them get over it and help them see that they're wasting their life and wasting their time messing around with something that they're not loving. It's Friday. We're rolling up on 1 o'clock. So I want you to go out, kick off your shoes, put your feet down in the grass, soak up some earth energy, balance yourself, take a deep breath of fresh air, and be glad you woke up above ground this morning. We'll see you back here on Monday. Bye.